Are you a Christian? I mean a true Christian, a heartfelt Christian, not just a Christian in your mouth. You know, a lot of people talk about being Christian, but the true Christians have that Christianity in their heart. They're truly good people, and they want to do right by other people, and they follow Jesus as closely as they can, and try to walk in the way of Christ. But some new information has come up, and what I want to say is there's a twist in the way that they say Christ went. It seems that they have led Jesus Christ to the Catholic Church instead of leading Jesus Christ to the Jewish church. And since Jesus was Jewish, and his covenant and the authority to have this covenant was granted to him by Yahweh, who is the Lord God of Israel, and by his father, by the way, it seems as though if you're walking with Jesus, you would walk with the true Jesus. And so, first of all, his name's not even Jesus. The letter J wasn't even invented back then. His name is Yeshua. And the Christ is something that the Romans came up with. And that's why when they say the Antichrist, they're talking about anything that goes against the story of Christ that they created to colonize the indigenous people. They said Jesus looked like he did. That's Pope Alexander VI's son. He commissioned Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci to compete to see who was going to come up with the fairest likeness of his son. And they were going to use that to lead people to believe that that's what Jesus looked like. And so, if that's what Jesus looks like, and they can make you believe that Jesus is God, then they look like him. They must be God's people. And the rest of you people who have dark skin, brown skin, tan skin, all you people are savages and heathens, and you need to bow down to the holy God of Rome right now. And they made everybody in Europe believe that. And that's one thing about a lie. If you can really convince somebody that the lie is the truth, and they believe it wholeheartedly, with all their might, everything that's in them, they believe that you told them the truth. It becomes their truth. And they sent those people out. The Vatican had decided to divide the Americas between Spain and England. And so they just told them to get out there and make it happen. And they took white Jesus to everybody and colonized all these people. And still to this day, their remnants exist in those countries, on those continents. They still have control of some of these places. And you see that picture of white Jesus all around the world. And that's a picture of Pope Alexander VI's son. His name is Caesar. And they used him to colonize the whole world. So this is what I'm talking about. If you're following Jesus, Yeshua, you want to follow the real Yeshua. The real Yeshua was Jewish. You want to follow him to Passover. You want to follow him to Yom Kippur. You want to follow him to Rosh Hashanah. You want to follow him to Sukkot. You want to follow him to all these Jewish high holy days that he would have attended. You want to really walk in the way of Christ. You don't have to change your heart. Your heart's in the right place. Everybody who believed that, it's not their fault. They truly believed it. With all their heart, they believed it. And so you don't have to change your heart. You just have to change your mind, because the pattern comes from the thought process, and the spiritual comes from the heart. And so your heart's in the right place. Just change your focus. Jesus was Jewish. There's no doubt about it. Jesus practiced Jewish customs. There's no doubt about it. Jesus was not in Rome. There's no doubt about it. When Peter went to Rome, they crucified him on an upside down cross, and then they laid him to rest in Apollo's temple. That's crazy. That's the temple. And if you know the significance of Apollo's temple, in the book of Revelations, when they talk about the end times and the star comes from the sky, the heavens, and is given the keys to the great abyss, and the locusts are let out and they torment mankind, and it says in there that these demons have a king, and his name is Apollyon, and that CERN Hadron Collider is built right where Apollo's temple used to be. And that's where they laid Peter to rest. So if you've got the keys to the great abyss is the portal to hell. And that was the legend all along, is that Apollo's temple had a portal to hell there. And so why would you lay the man that Jesus sent to spread the gospel, you crucified him on a satanic cross and laid him to rest in the devil's temple? Really? And so these are the same people that used to persecute the Christians and kill them and bring them to Rome and put them in the Colosseum and feed them to the lions while everybody watched, because they were Christians. And at first they tried to go over there and recruit them and convert them, but they were so into what they were doing about Christianity that they would martyr themselves before they would change to the Roman Catholic Church, because everybody knew that the Roman Catholic Church was a pagan church. And so what they did to convince people that they were going Christian is they took the statue they had of Jupiter and started calling him Peter, and put some keys in his hand and a halo over his head. And then they took the statue of Venus and they called her Mary and made that Jesus's mom. And now we're into Christianity, and this is what Jesus looks like, and Jesus is God, and if we look like him, that means we're God's people, and that means we're going to control the world. And that's what they did. So it doesn't change. This thing is, I did another video about how God makes lemonade out of lemons, and it's the sweetest lemonade. It's cool and refreshing. It's nice and tasty. Christianity blew up. Christianity blew up, and the bottom line is they wanted to make these people as humble and as passive as possible, and that's why Christians have such a good heart, and we need people like that in the world. We need that to balance out all this evil that goes on. And just because you were led the wrong way doesn't mean you have to keep walking that way. It's time to change up, look at the facts, and start moving in the right direction, because we don't have much time. We know the signs are here. Us people that are in tune with what's going on, we know the signs are here, and it's not going to be much longer before this all blows up. And I don't mean all blows up like the world's going to end or anything like that. You know what I'm talking about. The end of days, the end of the time that the fallen angels and their ancestors had to nurture mankind. And that's a long story, and I've done videos on that. But what I'm talking about now is how people were misled with this Christianity, and the Catholic Church has made arch enemies of the Jews. They've been persecuting the Jews all along. And what they did is they tried to take Yeshua and call him Jesus and bring him to Rome. And then they created Islam to persecute the Christians and stamp them out. And then they created a lie about Ishmael and Isaac to get the Jews and the Muslims fighting against each other. And the whole goal was to get control of Jerusalem so they could control the Holy Land. That was their goal. They wanted to control the Holy Land from Jerusalem. They wanted to control Jerusalem. They wanted to build the Vatican in God's land. That would complete their mission. That means they did the white Jesus. They colonized the whole world. They went to the Holy Land that the Bible says is the Holy Land, and they put their Vatican on the holiest spot in the world. And I mean, that would complete their mission. But what happened was, when the Muslims got to Jerusalem and took over Jerusalem, and the Pope said, okay, deal's up, hand me over Jerusalem. They said, no. He said, you're an infidel too, and we ain't doing it. So, in the end, God took another lemon that they tossed out and made some sweet lemonade, because Muslim Islam blew up all around the world. And these Muslims are devout. They are dedicated. They are focused. They are on their mission. They ain't playing about God. They don't play about God. Some people ought to look at that. Some people ought to look at that, because they don't play about God. And that's something to be admired, because a lot of us would be, joking and lollygagging and halfway doing stuff. They're on top of it. They ain't playing. So a lot of us could learn something from watching their devoutness and their worship and their obedience, to God. Their obedience. They're down for the crown for sure, no doubt. And so all these factions, have been led to believe that they should fight against each other, that one is better than the other, and one has to oppose the other. And this is all a ploy to keep everybody fighting, because all these factions have a different covenant with God. All these factions have their own set of orders from God. And if you think about it, if you were trying to think on that level and you were responsible for all this, if you're building a team, you've got to have different team members at different, teams that do different things, so that you have an arsenal at your disposal and you can fight against that evil in many different ways. And so nobody should be persecuting somebody else for what they believe in, as long as they believe in what's right and not what's wrong, what's good and not what's bad. They come to the light, don't walk in the darkness. You know what I mean? All those people that are walking the light, all those people that are doing good, all those people that are doing the right thing, all those people should be on the same team, because we're going to need each other to get over this. It's going to be a big one. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a brawl for it all. And it's going down right now in a town near you. The cries of distress can be heard from all the broad places. The target is the children. They got us confused on social media and got us looking at what's on Facebook and what's on TikTok and what's on Instagram. And they got sex sells, and it's wide open sex season, and Diddy's having parties, and everybody's getting abused, and crazy stuff is going on. And we're looking at all that, and who's marrying who, and who's sleeping with who, and who had whose baby, and what happened to this person, what happened to that person. And nobody's paying attention to the spiritual battle that's happening right now. And the crazy part about that is our children. Our children are the target. It's the same thing all over again. When the Catholic Church did this, first thing they had to do, the Romans had to get their own people to truly believe the lie. They had to believe it wholeheartedly. It had to be solidly embedded into them. They had a Christian crusade. They killed people that didn't believe. They martyred people. They crucified people. And by the time the Christian crusade was over, everybody in Europe either believed or shut their mouth. And then they built institutions to teach this, to make sure that if you're a certified person to teach somebody else about religion, you went to one of these institutions that taught you the lie. And it's a perpetual lie that keeps on going, it keeps on going, it keeps on going. And so at some point, the cycle's got to stop. And we got to get that out of our head, because those things that they were teaching us about Jesus being God and Jesus being divine, and that's not true. And let me tell you, the real reason why Jesus came here was Yahweh wanted to offer an opportunity to the Gentiles to come to him. See, the Ten Commandments and the Torah and all that was specifically for the children of Israel. That's those stories in the Bible. You read those stories close. He's not talking to everybody. He's talking to the children of Israel. Moses is handing down those laws to the children of Israel. This is the Abraham's promise. This is Isaac's promise. This is Jacob's promise. This is for the children of Israel. And so everybody else was doing their own thing. And now that generations have gone by, God knows it's not your fault that your people were doing that. And that's what they taught diligently to their offspring and their offspring and the next generation and the next generation. And pretty soon you've got a whole, world that are full of pagan people, of idolaters, they don't know the real God. So God sent Jesus, ordained him to open a covenant for the Gentiles to come back to God, an opportunity to get with Yahweh. That's what it was. And the Romans twisted it up, and they wanted to make Jesus divine, like I said, so they could make it look like they were God's people. And even the King of England, King James, told the English people that the covenant had been broken with the Jews, and he changed his mind, and now the English people are God's people. And that gave them, I mean, those people believed that. They believed it wholeheartedly, and they went out and they fought with every breath they had and with their last ounce of energy to defend what they believed wholeheartedly. So what we need to do is we need to protect our children, and we need to make sure that our children understand who God is and who Jesus is and who these good prophets are and who these bad people are, and make sure they know the difference. And we need to teach this diligently to them so that they're protected. They won't believe the lie, because the devil is targeting the children with lies on social media, lies on all the platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, all of them. They got a bunch of lies, and you can say anything you want on there now. Matter of fact, YouTube will let you put a lie on there if you tell them you're lying. They got a question about that. If you tell them you're lying, they'll let you put it on there, because everybody lies. That politics, politicians lie, the doctors lie, everybody's lying. And so it's really hard to decipher the truth. And for a young person whose mind is still developing, that's a really big task. And the lies keep hitting them in the face, and it looks like the truth is difficult to understand, but it looks like the lies are really easy to understand. And if you go the way of the truth, it looks like a tough road, but if you go the way of the lies, there's instant gratification. And so which way do they want to go? They want to go the easy way because they've been conditioned to have everything easy. So they want to go the easy way. But if they knew the difference, they wouldn't. If they understood the difference, they wouldn't. So we've all got to come together now that the truth is out. And I know that there's some people out there that feel some kind of way about Jesus being black. Don't feel like that, because it doesn't change what he came to do. It just changes what he looks like. They tried to change his whole meaning of who he is and tried to make it look like the Catholic Church was the ones that sent him. You know what I mean? That's not what happened. And so we need to come together and understand the truth. And once we all understand the truth, we need to move forward. If you're following Jesus, you need to follow him to the places that he went. You need to really find out, who Yeshua was. And by the way, if you want to, getting used to not calling him Jesus is going to be tough, because he's been called Jesus for so long. But I am quite sure that after the following and the goodness and the warmth and the love and everything that Christianity really represents, I am sure he's not mad at you about calling him Jesus, okay? But his name is Yeshua, and that's what we're going to call him. And what we want to do is we want to really follow him where he went. We want to look into what he did. You want to look into what his daily life might have been like. You want to look at the kind of prayers that he might have said. You want to look at the places that he worshiped, when he worshiped. God said, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. That means he knew somebody was going to change that day. That's why he said, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a journey, and we're going to follow Jesus. And, as these high holy days come up, I want to get on here and talk about these holy days, and let's get familiarized, with this, because this is going somewhere. And these other, factions are falling apart, because, when you build something on a lie, it's not a sturdy foundation. It's not rock solid, because the lie is going to fall apart eventually. And now the lies are falling apart. And there's way more to it than that. I'm not going to go into all this on this video, and I don't want to sit here and have a bashing session about the Catholic Church. But I know there's some stuff that's coming up that is deep, dark secrets that nobody was supposed to know, but they should have known when they're dealing with God. Eventually, what's done in the dark is going to come to light.